Hello you, it's Daniel and Chris with a load of old nonsense. No, it's actually the superhero show. This week we've got no news because we pre-recorded this. I've broken the fourth wall. But you have the talking point. Talking point sounds so naff.
Yeah, let's find a better name for it.
It's a bit partridge.
What about super talking point?
There you go.
There we go.
Writes itself.
Just put super in front of everything. We've had a lot of emails on this subject, an avalanche of them. And so we thought we'd dedicate a whole show to it. And I'm going to read out a couple of those emails. One comes from Killian McKinn, who says, with Marvel's The Avengers, The Age of Ultron, The Age? Beginning to shoot last week, do you think it could be the last time we see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, with rumours swelling that Marvel could be set to replace him? And Nick Smith wrote in, would you rather the character was retired and left open to someone like Black Panther to fill the gap, or he's replaced James Bond style? Which I guess referring to the actor replaced.
So we're talking about a bigger question here of whether they should let characters die and have some kind of finality, or we're in a situation where we could endlessly recast them. What's your kind of gut feeling just on that as a question?
Unfortunately, I'm going to be a bit wishy-washy here. I think it should be on a case-by-case basis.
But then we're going to have such a hodgepodge of characters. It's going to be like Neighbours.
Yeah, but I think it depends. Reboots, sequels. I don't know. I think a lot depends on the character. I think it was quite interesting interviewing Drew Pearce the other day, the screenwriter of Iron Man 3. He almost had to stop himself. I said, would you direct an Iron Man film in the future? And he almost had to stop himself. I felt like he was saying that Downey Jr. doesn't want to do another one, in which case he doesn't think there'll be another one, or certainly not for a long time. And yeah. I would be willing to agree with that. I think that Tony Stark, the character, will be written out of the Avengers movies, and there will be a break from Iron Man movies for maybe 10 years, and then we might get, not necessarily a new Tony Stark, but a new character in the Iron Man suit.
So, I think a lot of these emails we got revolved specifically around Robert Downey Jr., and I might just back you up on the wishy-washy answer here, is when an actor kind of embodies that role so well, he is Tony Stark for an entire generation of kids, and a lot of people who grew up with the Tony Stark character, they think he's just absolutely nailed it. He owns that character so totally. It would be really hard in the next 5 years to see anyone else do Tony Stark, and I think that is an insurmountable problem. But with secondary characters, does it really matter as much? I'm probably inclined to say no. I preferred Mark Ruffalo as the role of Bruce Banner. I think he's way more likeable than Edward Norton. I think they got that right third time around.
Did you prefer Don Cheadle to Terrence Howard?
I prefer Don Cheadle.
So Marvel already done it.
But also, I prefer Don Cheadle because I think he has more to do in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
It's a more likeable, believable, engaging role. Yeah. So I think with certain iconic characters, I don't want them to recast those big characters, but I think there's a secondary issue here, and it is, can these characters have some kind of closure? Now, we've got another email, and this is a great email from Edward Spence, and he talks about the idea of recasting versus the idea of legacy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. On a personal note, I think it'd be nice to let the universe evolve. And once an actor has finished their tenure in any given role and chooses to leave, that character's story should also come to a close, providing closure. And he thinks this would create a believable continuity. See, the old kind of joke about superhero comics is that no one ever remains dead apart from Bruce Wayne's parents and Uncle Ben, because they need to remain dead. Anyone can die and come back. Look at Jean Grey being a classic example. She can die, she can always come back. And I think, do you want to get to a situation where it's like that in comic book movies? That you go to these big films every couple of years and something happens, and then a couple of years later that it's rendered meaningless because they come back to life.
Yeah.
Whereas in comics, there's so many comics published every week, you kind of need to churn the characters around. But as films, do you want to be in that situation where these people are coming back to life and it's just confusing and weird? And I think it just undermines the kind of investment you might have in a 2-hour film when it might be another 3 years before you get an X-Men movie.
So would you have a problem with them killing Iron Man off?
I wouldn't. I think it'd be it's such a great. Imagine what a brilliant movie moment that would be. Say we rewind time and go back to the end of the Avengers. Imagine if he sacrificed himself.
Yeah,
imagine if he had died saving the universe, and that was the end of his story. You'd be talking about that now, and you would have cried, and I would have cried, and it would have meant something. And I kind of want them to do that. I don't want them to do the kind of turn face. He's kind of alive.
And Iron Man wasn't a globally known character until the first movie.
They'll find new characters.
Yeah, Marvel have so many new characters on the back burner that they're just waiting to use. I would have absolutely no problem. And already we're seeing, with the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers, who knows if some of those might cross over a little bit.
Yeah, so I think there's a roster of characters. Obviously, the pressure to make movies, even though they do 2 or 3 a year, isn't the same strain and stress that you get under comics publication. And I think sometimes the mechanics of comics publishing necessitates this endless rotation of characters and reviving them, and how silly it kind of gets. Whereas film, they can have some closure. They have more time to plan them out. So,
and if they did decide, however, to replace Robert Downey Jr., like you were saying earlier, I really pity the actor that has to do that, because the only other example that I can think of where an actor's been so closely, his performance was so great as a superhero that they kind of became synonymous, was Christopher Reeve in Superman. Yeah. And the actors have come since him. It's just not happened, has it?
What's the line in every review? Name checks Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yeah.
And name checks him not only as Superman, but as Clark Kent. You've been compared to him twice. And that's probably, there was a lot of furore around Ben Affleck. And that's because Ben Affleck brings his own baggage. But also, Christian Bale was such a great Batman for, 8 years? It's really hard to dislodge the previous guy who makes the role his own.
Funny thing is, though, with Batman, when I think of Batman, I don't necessarily think of Christian Bale.
There's been so many.
Yeah, and I love Michael Keaton and Adam West. But when I think of Superman, I think of Christopher Reeve still.
Right.
And when I think of Iron Man, I think of Tony Stark. So that's kind of the problem.
Tony Stark, then. How revealing's that?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, so that's the problem that these filmmakers are going to have.
Okay, so in conclusion, we're not against the idea of recasting if it means you get a better actor.
Yeah.
We're against it if it means dislodging a really memorable, iconic actor in that role.
Yeah.
But thirdly, we're happy to let characters die and for them not to come back.
Yeah, and fourthly, we'd like to see new characters given a go as well.
And fifthly, if you can put that in some kind of diagram, that'd be absolutely superb. Now, if you've got any thoughts on that issue, please email us at IGN_UKfeedback@IGN.com. And until next week, we'll see you later.
Take care.